Welcome to the Mentors and Moguls podcast. I'm your host, Heather Stone. I bring you mentors and moguls from all around the world, different walks of life, from creatives to CEOs to business leaders to top athletes and all kinds of other people in between. If you like our episode today, all of our podcasts are available on our YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe and comment. We'd love to hear your feedback. All right, this is a subject everyone wants to talk about. The secret behind brand building. My guest today is Rory Vaden. He's a New York Times bestselling author, co-founder of the Brand Builders Group, and an 8-figure entrepreneur and a Hall of Fame speaker. I am so thrilled to have a great conversation, a very candid conversation, mind you, with my friend Rory Vaden. So welcome to the Mentors and Moguls podcast. I'm your host, Heather Stone. Today we have a wonderful guest, my friend, Mr. Rory Vaden. Rory is quite accomplished. He's a New York Times bestselling author, co-founder of the Brand Builders Group, 8-figure entrepreneur, and Hall of Fame speaker. Welcome, Rory.
Woo! Thank you. And friend and admirer of Heather Stone. Like, once you get to be on Heather's inner circle, man, you have made it. So thanks for having me, buddy. We love you. We believe in you. You're so tremendous and impressive and inspiring. So getting a chance to be here is an honor.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I deserve that, but I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, today we're going to talk about you. So on Mentors and Moguls, we like to talk to the people and find out what created them from day one, behind the scenes, to turn them into wonderful mentors and moguls. You've got a wonderful story. I like telling people that you can dream big and you can achieve big. And sitting right here with me is Rory Vaden. He is proof positive that it works. So Rory, take me back for a minute. Before you became a best-selling author, a Hall of Fame speaker, and Mr. Entrepreneur Extraordinaire, how did you get your start and what really motivated you? I think you were an author first. Were you driven first to be an author or a speaker? Take us through that, the first years.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was born in a trailer park in Boulder, Colorado. And my mom was a single mother. So by the time she was 22 years old, she had been divorced twice. And she had my brother when she was 17, and then she was married to his dad for a few years. They got divorced. And then she married my biological father. And 6 months after I was born, they divorced and he was gone and we never saw him again. So she's 22 years old, single mom, 2 kids, no college education. And, we didn't have much, but we had friends and we had love and we always had God. Like, we've always had a huge faith. And my mom, from the time I was little, she would tell me 2 things. Basically, one, that I could do anything. And she would say, you can grow up to do anything. And then the other thing is that I used to tell her, Mom, I don't like that. I don't, there's these things that I don't enjoy it. And she used to say, that's okay, Rory, because enjoying it isn't a requirement of doing it. Enjoying it isn't a requirement of doing it. And that was a part of, where I developed discipline. And I learned about discipline from her. Also, I was in martial arts at a young age when I was 5 years old. And age 10, I had become the youngest black belt in Colorado to ever get beaten up by a girl. And I didn't like it. But my mom said, look, you have to do things that you don't want to do. And so I developed discipline, and that became sort of my life philosophy, was that, she said, you're going to go to college and you're going to get a full ride scholarship because there's no way I will ever be able to pay for it. And, so for the most part, that's kind of what happened. I was valedictorian. I got a full academic scholarship to the Denver University, DU, dollars unlimited, as I like to call it. So it was a good thing I was on a full ride. It was very expensive. And then when I was in college, I got recruited for a direct sales company. And I spent 5 summers going door to door, So I knocked on doors, Heather, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week on straight commission, paying all of our own expenses. And I had been around door to door. I had been around direct sales because my mom had sold Mary Kay Cosmetics. So I grew up around, women talking sales and teaching me the principles of success. It also means I know more about makeup than I do about cars. And so I grew up around this. And then when I was in college, so I did this, but I went door to door. We took ice cold showers. I lived in a state I had never been before. We would have to knock on doors to find a place to live, straight commission. And, I never thought I would become a door to door salesperson. I was a normal child. I wanted to sell Mary Kay. And but I learned through the process of that, that discipline creates freedom. The discipline would unlock the ability to do anything that, basically between Kung Fu and becoming an All-American athlete and getting a full scholarship. And then I broke a 150-year-old record in this direct sales company for recruiting and leadership. And then my dream was to be a speaker. I never thought I would be a writer. I hated English class, didn't love reading. I wanted to be a speaker. And I heard about this contest called the World Championship of Public Speaking. So, I'm a 22-year-old kid. I got my MBA and my undergrad at the same time. So I was always very, studious / nerdy, also known as nerdy. I did this direct sales company and I'd made about $250,000 in 5 summers.
Wow.
doing this thing, like going door to door. I was making real money. And I heard about this World Championship of Public Speaking. And I thought, well, there it is. Maybe if I won the World Championship of Public Speaking, that would give me the credibility to launch my speaking career. And what had happened was it's very competitive. There's 25,000 people who compete from 90 countries, and some people spend 10 years of their life preparing and competing for this. And so I went all in and I spoke 304 times for free. I took dozens of courses. I invested in coaching. I spent my last dollars on coaching and training classes. And I made it to the World Championship, the top 10 speakers in the world in 2006. And I lost. But then the next year I studied harder. I worked, longer. I got more evaluations. And in the year 2007, I went back to the World Championship. And that was the year that I lost again, but I lost higher. I lost better. I was number 2. So I was the world champion of public speaking, first runner up. I was 24 years old. And then I was at a conference a couple of weeks later and I was sitting in the cafeteria and there was this open seat next to me. And this older gentleman walks up to me and he says, "Oh, you're Rory Vaden, right?" And I was like, yes, sir, I am. And he said, "You're the Toastmaster kid, aren't you?" I said, I am. He tells me, he goes, I heard about that. That was pretty impressive for a young man like you. And I was like, well, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Have we met? And he reaches out his arm and he says, "My name is Zig Ziglar."
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Bam. And so Zig Ziglar introduces himself to me, sits down next to me. We talk for 3 hours. We become fast friends. He mentors me personally over the next 4 years. I got to travel with him. I go backstage at these huge arenas and stuff. Meanwhile, we had started our first company. So I was out of grad school. We started a company. We were putting on motivational seminars. I met this woman named AJ through a friend of mine. We became business partners. And because we had this mutual friend, we started this company. We ended up growing that company to 8 figures over 12 years. We had about 200 people on our team. In 2012, my first book, Take the Stairs, comes out, which is a metaphor for self-discipline and doing things you don't want to do and the psychology of overcoming procrastination. A lot of those things I learned from my mom and just applied into my life. I ended up falling in love with AJ. We got married. We have a couple kids. And then we sold that company in 2018. And then we started Brand Builders Group. And now we help mission-driven messengers make more impact in the world. We help them to become more well-known, to build their reach, and to build and monetize their personal brand. And that led to the pinnacle of achievement, which was becoming friends with Heather Stone and being invited on the Mentors and Moguls podcast. Here we are. That's the whole story.
Hope you go a little higher than that. But that is a fantastic summary. But all the way through there, it was your mom saying, keep going, be persistent. And that's one thing that I witnessed is that you are steady, you and AJ, but you are steady and you're persistent and you haven't wavered from your original mission. And that is why I think you're so successful.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's, Take the Stairs, the first book, which is, still sort of like part of what my flagship personal brand is, known for, is discipline is the word that we use, right? And discipline is decidedly different from hard work. Like discipline is doing the things you should be doing, even when you don't feel like doing them. Mm-hmm. It is taking the stairs. And that is what we believe is the single greatest difference between the world's ultra performers, which we later called in our second book, multipliers, but is the ability to do the things you should do even when you don't feel like doing them. And so that book is sort of the psychology of how to overcome procrastination and get yourself to be disciplined. And then my TED Talk came out a few years later. That went viral. That was really about how to multiply. So how to overcome distraction and identify the things that were really significant and will multiply your impact. And then, most of the work we do today is around helping other aspiring experts, authors and speakers and coaches and consultants and entrepreneurs, helping them to sort of multiply their message and make a big impact in the world and teaching them how to basically do what we've done.
Which is amazing because you've walked the walk with the sweat, the grit, and the discipline. So it is very nice to sit in front of someone and that way you can take advice willingly and happily from someone who's already gone down that path before you. So I say that as someone who has listened to you and taken your advice and you do know what you're talking about. So that's all.
Thank you. I'm going to cut that clip and play it for AJ. I'm going to be like, Heather said, I know what I am talking about. But no, actually we've been, business partners, and in Brand Builders Group, we don't have any other partners or investors. It's me and her. She's the CEO. I operate more like the CMO. Right. And yeah, I mean, we want to be practitioners, right? We want to be the people who are teaching what we've done, and modeling that. And we've got we've had a lot of great wins, and some of our clients are very recognizable. Lewis Howes from School of Greatness, Ed Milet, Tom and Lisa Bilyeu, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. Like we work with some people that we've also helped to become pretty successful. Yes. They would have been successful without us. Many of them were even before us, but it shows that this stuff works. But our heart is not for the celebrity. Our heart is for that mission-driven messenger, that person who feels like they have a calling on their life. They have a message in their heart that they want to get out to the world, and they're not exactly sure how to do it in an ethical way that feels aligned and good. And they're not even maybe sure what that message is. And we want to help those people because we've honestly, Heather, for us, this is a calling. We believe there's a war going on, that there's so much bad news and so much misinformation and so much fear and scarcity and negativity and programming. And for us, we think it's a spiritual battle, that every day you wake up, the devil is trying to flood your mind with doubt. And that's the tool of the devil. It's doubt. It's not overt. It's subtle. It's saying, oh, you could never do that. Other people could, but you can't. Who are you? Someone already did that. There's millions of people. Why is anyone going to follow you? Right? Like that is straight up that, at least we believe, it's, call me crazy, but it's like, that is how the subtlety of a snake, like it is this, it is doubt. And what that does is that prevents you from doing the work and becoming the person that somebody else needs you to be. And so we're trying to unblock that, and we're trying to empower the people, not just to make money. Like, money for us is very much an ancillary byproduct. Like, we don't really even think about money that often, other than just trying to be a good steward and not do anything stupid. It's really about the mission. It's about the person where mission matters more than money. I mean, like you, right? Like you,
Yes.
For you, it's mission. If the mission matters more than the money.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's where we're very much aligned. I hate seeing it. And obviously we're talking to our former selves in some way, shape or form and trying to offer some assistance and help for people out there. So I completely agree with that. Trying to help people, saying, don't stop. You've got so much more in you. You just don't know it. I see it. Just give me 5 more days and we're going to pull that out of you. And you're going to see that looking back at you in the mirror. I think that is the aha moment. And that's really the fun for me. And I think that's the fun for you when you see people just light up and get going and then they explode, like a lot of your clients have. So let's kind of take a look into the future if you can. I grew up in an era where I had products. I had businesses and products, my husband and I, and that was no problem marketing those products, building those businesses. And they were always a service. We weren't selling widgets. We were in the service business of how can we make your company run smoother? How can we make it more efficient? How can we make it, more digital to make you more secure, so forth and so on. And so when it comes to personal branding, that's a completely different mindset for someone like me and a lot of other people that say, I've got a lot of experience. I have a mission. But now you have to turn the camera, so to speak, back on yourself and start creating your personal brand. And for a lot of people, that's daunting. But there's so many people out there that have wonderful messages and have great experience. Can you talk a little bit about that? What's the best piece of personal branding advice you can give someone that says, I've got all this experience, but I'm not quite sure how to package it up or what to do with it? What would you say maybe to that person to get started with their own personal brand?
Yeah, so we can talk about the practical steps here in a second. What I really want to address with your question is there is a psychological switch that needs to flip here. And it's never really occurred to me until this very moment, the way you were talking about products. When you build a product or a service, you can sort of market it enthusiastically because you go, this product can change your life, right? Because there's a disassociation of yourself from the product. You're promoting the product. But then when we go to promote ourselves, it suddenly creates this conflict that if I'm promoting myself, I'm not necessarily just promoting something that will help people's lives. I'm promoting myself. And it is my pride and my ego and my vanity. And so that becomes a real source of conflict for people, right? Heather, as they're going, ooh, I don't feel good about this. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want to present to the world as if I have all the answers. And guess what? So coming back to the devil, that is exactly where he wants you, because he is going, yes, this is arrogant. This is vain. This is prideful. Because every moment you're doing that, that is a moment you're not educating or encouraging somebody else.
Interesting.
Right? And here is the mindset, and this is the truth, okay? There is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. There is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. There's only fear when you're thinking about yourself. Am I smart enough? Should I be doing this? Am I going to say the right thing? Can I grow my followers? Can I be famous? Can I make money? All of it is self-centered, and that's where fear comes from. But when you're thinking about who can I help, right? Like the fastest way to find your purpose is not to say, what's the purpose of my life? The fastest way to find your purpose is to ask, who can I help? Who can I serve? Who can I support? Like that is when you move and you go in action. It's like the example I use all the time is if you're driving down the road, like on any given day, you might wake up and look in the mirror and be like, okay, is my hair cute? Like, is my outfit cute? Does my hair look good? But if you're driving down the road and there's a car turned over in a ditch and the car's on fire and you're going over to pull someone out, you're not thinking about how does my hair look?
Right.
You're not worried about, does my breath stink? Like you're not thinking about, is my outfit cute? You're going to help somebody. And if you sat back in that moment and thought about, oh my gosh, there's a fire, like this car could explode. Maybe I shouldn't do that. When you're thinking about yourself, you would feel the fear. But the moment you go, somebody is there, they need help, this divine courage floods into your system, and you go and you conquer and achieve these supernatural things, not based out of the strength of who you are, but based in the strength of the service you feel called to for somebody else. And that is where you have to live. You have to live in the service of somebody else. You have to live in the service of your audience. It's not how many followers do I have? How many downloads do I have? How many email subscribers? How much money am I making? It's who am I helping? And am I providing real value that actually transforms lives? Not what are the magic words I can say to cause a stranger on the internet to buy from me and give me money?
Yes.
But going, how can I actually operate based out of my calling and exist and shine in a way in the world that I actually add value to people's lives? And so to your question, the single best piece of personal branding advice I've ever received, and you know this because we share this quote a lot. And if there's one quote I could take in the world and say, I wish this was my quote, because it's not my quote, but I wish it was. This came from a mentor of mine, a guy named Larry Winget. And he said, the goal is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others.
Love that.
Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. And it's been amazing to me, as somebody who grew up with no money. I mean, like when I was little, Heather, all I wanted was boxed cereal. Like we had this crappy bagged cereal that was stale all the time, and Air Jordans, like that would have been like having a mansion and a Bentley. Like I wanted Air Jordans. We didn't get Air Jordans. In my house, we got Air Jordache. Like if any of you remember Jordache, like that's what I had. Famous Footwear that was my crib, right? Like we grew up there, and it was like, those were the things that I wanted. But over time, I'm amazed at how many ultra wealthy people we know. Like we've had 4 billionaires that are clients at Brand Builders Group in the last 12 months, 4 with a B. We have several clients who are 100 millionaires. And these people, you learn that money does not motivate. Like it doesn't work for that long. It does when you don't have anything, right? It does where you go like, man, I need to survive. I got to get my family out of here. Like it does for that. But as soon as you have a little bit, it wears off. The only thing that really changes the world is this drive for service, this ruthless and relentless dedication to say, I'm going to use my life in the service of others. And so that the thing about Larry was he nailed it. That is exactly what to do. Find your uniqueness, exploit it in the service of others. But Larry was not in the business of teaching people how to do that. So when we exited our last company and we started our new company, which was random, Lewis Howes, who had been a friend of ours, he actually called us the day we exited our last company and said, hey, I need some help. I need some advice from you guys. And he was our first client. He was the one that said, this is your new business, because what we developed spontaneously and unexpectedly was a systematic process to help people find their uniqueness, to help them figure out what is unique about them. And then for each person, we now have worked with over 600 clients, to take that and bottle it up. And then you almost treat yourself with the same disassociation, Heather, that you had with your products and services. You go, I mean, this is the great irony about personal branding, is that your personal brand is not about you. Like it actually has little to do with you. It is all about what you can pull together to be in service and support of somebody else. And so in a way, once you realize, oh, this isn't about me, I'm just a conduit for this message, I'm just a vehicle for other people to experience this transformation. That's the psychological switch that has to flip before anyone can ever really, go out and do this the right way.
That's an important message to get across to anyone who is listening that is considering and that said, yes, but not me. The other thing is, how do you talk to people when they talk about, well, I can copy that so-and-so because if I do everything that so-and-so does online with a bazillion followers, then I will be just like them and have the same amount of success. I don't believe that's true. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, again, it's finding your uniqueness. Like everybody is out there, trying to copy however, Gary Vaynerchuk or Oprah or Brene Brown, like what they do. And there's only one, right? Like your best chance of becoming somebody like that is to become more of yourself, like to become more of who you are, is to celebrate your uniqueness. And like, what we want to do is figure out what that is. Like people can learn, like when we help people, let's say write a book or create a course or something, and we're like actually pulling it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to pull out the way they actually do it in their life. We're not trying to regurgitate what Tony Robbins says or Stephen Covey or Simon Sinek or, Jim Collins. There's nothing wrong with any of those. They're all great. I've learned from all of them. But it's going, if that's what you're teaching and talking about, then I'm learning everything secondhand from you. It's naturally diluted. But if you're teaching me what you have done in your life, like if how you have built your business or how you have overcome, and we'll talk about, that's the first way, to figure out where you start a personal brand, is to figure out what to talk about. But when you're teaching what you have actually done, it's never secondhand. It's firsthand. It is always original. It is always unique because it's your truth. And that's the thing, is it doesn't have to be the truth. It just has to be your truth. It has to be what has actually worked for you in the way that it has worked for you. And that is what is powerful. And that is what the world needs. The world needs real solutions to real problems. The average person actually doesn't really care how many followers somebody has or what their credentials are. People don't care about you. They care about what you can do for them. They don't care about you. They care about what you can do for them. So at the end of the day, they're going like, can you solve my problem or not? I mean, I use the example of a plumber all the time because I go, look, if we have a flood in our house, I don't care about finding the world's greatest plumber. I'm not going to spend a lot of time evaluating like, is this the world's greatest plumber? I'm going to be like, I need a plumber who can solve the problem for me right now. And that's how the world is. The world's like constantly on fire with problems. You don't have to be the world's greatest. You just have to be able to solve the problem and it has to actually work. And so that's, the first question is really figuring out what to talk about so that you don't end up off track.
So getting clear, and you help people when you first meet with them, you help people get clear on their message. What is your uniqueness and what are you really trying to get across? What are you trying to sell? What are you trying to solve? What problem are you trying to solve? Expand on that a little bit for someone who's unfamiliar with the first couple of steps when they meet with your team.
Yeah. So that, the genesis of a personal brand. And by the way, people, if you're listening, you might go, do I need a personal brand? And if you're asking that question, I would say you're thinking about this wrong, because the way we define personal branding is different than probably how most people think about it. Most people think when you hear the term personal brand, you might think, ooh, a website and a logo and some fonts and some colors and some social media and a podcast. No. The way we define personal branding is simply this. Personal branding is simply the digitization of reputation. The digitization of reputation. It is taking the concept of reputation, which has been around for decades, centuries, one of the most important, most powerful concepts there is on the earth. Like, what is your reputation? What are you known for? Who are you? What do people say about you? And all we're doing is just digitizing that. So if your reputation matters to you, then personal branding should matter. And it should be something that you're paying a lot of attention. And if you're late to the party, like, you better kick it into high gear, because the world is digital. Like, so much of the world is digital. And if I can't figure out who you are online, then I don't even know you exist, right? Unless I happen to stumble across you in real life. So more and more, it's the digitization of reputation. And so we go, all right, so anyone who cares about their reputation needs to have this conversation. And then where do you start? And for us, the genesis of building a personal brand is answering this one simple question with one word. And it's so incredibly difficult, but so extremely important. And then the question is, what problem do you solve? What problem do you solve? In one word. If you can't answer that problem in one word, then you don't have enough clarity. You don't have enough clarity to know what you're doing. And that means the world doesn't have clarity about what you do, which means it's hard to hire you. It's impossible to recommend you. It's basically not even easy to understand you. And what most people do when they build their personal brand, they do what you talked about, Heather. They look at everybody else and they go, "Oh, I'm going to do what they do. I'm going to have a podcast. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do some conferences, and I'm going to do some social media, and I'm going to talk about teamwork and leadership and change and entrepreneurship and women in business and diversity. And I'm going to talk about like social media and some marketing tactics." And they do all of this stuff. And when you have diluted focus, you get diluted results.
Right.
When you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. Precision is what creates power. Precision creates power. We want to be precise. Think of a crowded room with a bunch of people talking, and it's this general sort of mutter. But then someone takes a fork and they ping a glass, and there is this precision, and that sound cuts through all the noise. That is exactly what we need to do with your positioning and your messaging. And it starts by being able to answer the question, what problem do you solve? And here's the thing. If you can't answer what problem you solve, there's no way your customers ever will be able to. There's no way anyone else is going to accidentally transmit that. And it's not just business, right? Now there's some great personal brands in the world. Some of my favorites that are great examples of this. So one of my friends is Dave Ramsey. I was just emailing with Dave this morning. Dave is one of the biggest personal brands in the world, right? He has 1,000 employees, multi-9-figure business. He reaches 17 million people every week on the radio, 1 billion podcast downloads. I mean, he's like the biggest personal brand in the world. Well, Dave has built all of that on solving one problem: debt. That's it. He teaches people how to get out of debt. And that's what he's been doing for 30 years. He's been saying the same 7 baby steps on the radio for 3 hours every day for 30 years. Multi-9-figure business. Solving the problem of debt. Brene Brown, great example. Changing the world, becoming one of the most influential people of our time. What does Brene Brown talk about? Shame. That's it. She broke through the wall. We call the Sheehan's wall. She broke through the wall talking about one thing: shame, right? For me, originally, my personal brand, we built it on talking about distraction, right? Which is people are distracted and they need to be disciplined. And that was Take the Stairs. We broke through the wall talking about distraction. Tony Robbins talks about pain, overcoming pain and suffering. There are so many great examples, even beyond business. Mother Teresa dedicated her life to eradicating the world of poverty. Martin Luther King Jr. dedicated his life to ridding the world of inequality. This is how you change the world. It is ironic because the way that you get noticed by the many is to talk about the precise, to go, and it's a hard question to answer, right? It's simple, but it's very, very difficult to go, what problem would you dedicate the rest of your life to solving? If we can nail that, right? And we have a whole process we take people through, like all these questions we ask people to figure it out. The answer reveals itself. Then you go, man, if I can occupy that space in the world and in that space in people's minds and that space online, occupying that little tiny space is actually becomes, millions and millions of people. With Lewis Howes, just to use him since he was our very first client, self-doubt was for him the word that we identified. And Lewis was already a Rolling Stone before he found us. He was, he had about 30 million podcast downloads, but in the last couple of years since working with us, he's gone from 30 million to 500 million. Like he has more than 10x. It's the power of this clarity. Precision creates power. And when you have diluted focus, you get diluted results.
Yes. Yes. Well, very well said. It's tough to cut through the noise because there's so many people out there trying to push their personal brand and trying to be authentic. I think that's key that you and I discussed is you need to be yourself. You need to be authentic, flaws and all, and people will relate to you a little bit better. There was certainly more than a plastic facade, a mask that you put on, because that's not the real you and it really won't hold water. But looking to the future, I think that personal branding is necessary going forward because I was on the global stage, right, with our company, selling globally. Nobody knows who you are back in the US when you're halfway across the world with different cultures and so forth and so on. So I think personal branding is so important. Like you said, people understand what you're all about before you enter the room, or even if you get that door open to you, if they can take a peek in, let's say in Australia, to someone who's sitting in California. Can I know a little bit more about this person and what they do and how they tick and what works for them and what doesn't? And what are they all about before I want to do business or take a call with them? What do you think about that? Is that right on?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think more and more people want to know who they're doing business with and who they're buying from, not just what are they buying, not just the company, right? Like we've all been led astray by these giant, nameless, faceless organizations that take advantage of our privacy or steal our data or, have unethical executives, people engaging in horrendous sexual harassment and gender discrimination. And we have no idea, like the consumer has no idea this is happening behind the scenes. Then more and more people are going, no, I want to know who you are. In fact, one of the things that our team did last year, in fact, AJ led this, our CEO, my wife, we did this study called Trends in Personal Branding National Research Study. And people can download it for free. But we asked the question about how much does a personal brand affect the actual state of doing business. And we found incredible statistics. 74% of Americans, it was a US study, but 74% of Americans say they're more likely to trust someone who has an established personal brand. 58% of Americans said they would pay more money to buy the same service from an individual person who had an established personal brand versus a large company who did the same thing or provided the same service, because they know who they're buying from. Like 2/3 of Americans say they want to know the executives. They want to know who are the people behind these companies, and it's because the digitization of reputation. Like this is a matter of trust, right? It's not vanity. It's not followers. It's not money. This is trust. Can I trust you? Are you who you say you really are? What do other people say about you? And we've never lived in a time where that information was more readily accessible and readily transmittable as we do today because of online and digital media. And so it matters a lot what other people are saying about you. It matters a lot who's commenting on your posts and who's leaving reviews on your Amazon and who is leaving reviews on your podcast and what shows you're on and who you're friends with and what your comments are and what you're sharing with the world. But Simon Sinek really nailed this a few years ago in his TED Talk when he said people don't buy what you do, they buy what you believe. Right? We want to do business with people who believe what we believe. And so, you have to put that out there so that people will get a chance to know who you are and they feel like they know you. And I'll say this too, Heather, like for me, I actually, this is one of my dirty secrets. I don't really like social media. Like, even though we do all this stuff, like for me personally, it's like a necessity. It's a necessity. It's like making a sales call or something, right? It's like, it's not my favorite thing to do. I do it because I have to. Now, I learned to love sales calls. I learned to love accounting and financial statements. And, there's a part of me that learns to love social media, but it's not how I would choose to spend my free time. And for a long time, it never made sense to me, like the social parts. Most of my feed is just encouragement and education, right? We talk about there's really only 3 content strategies: entertainment, encouragement, or education, some mix of the 3. Most of our clientele falls into experts. So it's mostly encouragement or education. We do have a few entertainers. One of our new clients is actually the most viewed person on Instagram, got over 1 billion views last month. Wow. So he'll be at our events, like sitting in amongst the crowd, right? So you'll see him, you'll get to meet him. But it's the power of this is that people get to know you. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you go to my feed, and one of the tactical things that we teach clients is we say, your feed should be what you do. Your stories are who you are. Right. So on my feed, that's mostly like people are meeting me for the first time. I just want it to be information that's useful for them. So I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about things that I know that are useful for them. And that's what we're sharing. But if you go look inside my stories, you'll see pictures of who I'm hanging out with and what me and my kids are doing and where AJ and I are going to dinner. Like tonight, we're going to see Top Gun, and I'm pumped. Like for date night, we're going to see Top Gun.
Oh my gosh, I wish I was going.
Oh, I'm so excited. Like I cannot wait. But it's little details like that humanize you. So at first, people want to learn from us, and that's how they kind of like get introduced to us. But before they buy from us, they want to feel like they know us. And social media has this tremendous power to do both. For you to showcase what you know, to showcase what you do, but also to showcase or let people know who you are and what you believe, and go, oh yeah, Rory and AJ are always posting pictures of Jasper and Liam, and like yesterday they were running around and they were naked in the pool, and I was like, oh, it's gotten buck wild at Vaden Villa, right? Like these kind of things are endearing. They're humanizing, and more, like to your point, I think you were spot on. It's starting to matter more and more. We want to do business with people, not just who are credible, but who are trustworthy. Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between being credible and being trustworthy. Credible is your stuff. You actually, maybe are an expert, but trustworthy means you're a person of character. You're a person of honesty, of integrity. You have the same values that I value. You live in the same way that I live. You believe what I believe. And since we're voting with dollars and we can use our dollars anywhere, it's like all things being equal, I'm going to choose to do business with the person that is trustworthy. And, social media gives us a chance of a vehicle to express that.
That's very, very important. So someone is listening to this today is saying, all right, I like Rory. I like to hear what he has to say. I never thought about personal branding.
I hope more than one person is listening and goes, I like Rory. But if there's just one,
there might be a few out there that are listening.
I hope so.
What would you tell them to do first before we've got a special offer here coming up in a second? But what would you tell them to do first? Maybe search inside themselves and ask themselves one question before they pick up the phone, perhaps, and reach out and try and get a hold of you or someone on your team.
Yeah, well, like in a practical sense, if you want to talk to us, we do the first call for free for everybody. So if you go to heatherrstone.com/free brand call, heatherrstone.com/free brand call, you can fill out a form and we do the first call for free with everybody. So what happens is, separate from that, I'll share the secret. All right. I'll tell everyone the secret. All right, Heather. So our whole curriculum is 12 different 2-day trainings.
But don't think that's 12 easy 2-day trainings that you could create yourself, people, because it's not. They are intensive, and you got to take breaks because there's so much information coming at you, and it's up-to-date information coming at you. Like from yesterday, did you know that this just happened with algorithms? Did you know this just happened in the world and everything changed? So sorry for interrupting, but this is important to know.
No, yeah, that's okay. So but like our flagship experience is the first one. It's called Finding Your Brand DNA. Most of what we talked about today, find how to find your uniqueness in this process we take people through. If there's a shortcut to finding your uniqueness, and this is what we train our internal team on. So what we know now that we didn't know when we started the company is there's this little shortcut. And so we train our strategists to listen for this. And here's what we have both learned and realized and also come to believe. That you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. Mm-hmm. You are always most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So the shortest, fastest path to creating impact in the world and influence and income is to build a personal brand around the person you were. So you have to ask yourself, like, what problem have you pushed past? What challenge have you conquered? What setback have you survived? What obstacle have you overcome? In the answer to those questions lies the fertile soil that will grow a world-changing personal brand. And, I think that's why we've had so many clients really be successful quickly, because they're teaching from a place of not just I've studied this, but I've actually lived it. I have walked this road. And that's what we're doing. Like you said that earlier, is like anyone who has this feeling, we've spent our life learning how to turn this into like a formal business. And it just so happens that we're hitting this era in time where there's this explosion of the digitization of reputation. But you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. If there's a hint, if there's a shortcut, that's it.
I think that's spot on. And I think that is the best place. It worked for me. I had a pretty good idea, but then after spending several days with you all, it became crystal clear exactly how I wanted to present what I thought was my solution out there to the world. And it's been right. I haven't questioned it since. So thank you for that.
I love that. I love that. You're what we call a Brand Builders Group original gangster, or a BBG OG, Heather. You're a BBG OG. Even in the early years, like we've grown a lot. I mean, we've only been in business 4 years, so a lot is, AJ's constantly improving things. But and I would say this, y'all. So first of all, if you feel this calling on your heart, and you just want to, just explore it, and go to heatherrstone.com/free brand call. Okay. And we'll tell you, right? We'll put you through just a little short questionnaire. It takes like 4 minutes. And it'll tell you if you're a good fit, like to talk to us. And if not, like we'll point you in another direction, give you a bunch of free tools and stuff. But if we are potentially a good fit, we'll also tell you, and we'll be able to know pretty much right away. But I think you should do that. And if you feel any calling whatsoever, you should at least take that step. And part of the reason why is because we now believe, and I would say we now know confidently, that the calling on your heart, like the calling that you feel, is actually the result of a signal that's being sent out by somebody else. It's a signal that's being sent out into the world by somebody who needs you. And that's what you're hearing. I mean, we also believe that it is a divine calling from God, right? Like, but whether or not you believe in God, at least you can believe in this other part of it, that it's like in a very worldly, practical way, you're experiencing a frequency, like a scientific frequency of a signal that is being sent out by someone else. And what's wild about this is that person needs you way more than you need them. Like that person needs you to step into who you were designed to be more even than you need to step into that, because they need you. Why? Because there is somebody out there right now who literally is asking questions that you could answer without even having to think about it. They're searching for solutions that you already know like the back of your hand. Think about this. There could be somebody out there right now in the world who is literally on their hands and knees praying for answers to questions, searching for a path that you have already walked down.
Yes.
And that person, they need you way more than you need them. And the only reason why you wouldn't do it is because of fear. And yet there is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. So if you feel that calling, lean into it, at least go, check out that page, request a call with our team, and, let's talk and see what's there.
Very well said. Very well said. I've met many of your clients everyone is offering all kinds of different solutions. I don't think I've met any two people that are alike. But I think one of just recently, a very impactful story, and I'll leave names out of it, is someone who was really struggling with life, getting up and out of their house, trying to declutter their brain, didn't know where to go, but they felt like they were stuck on a rat wheel and this was it. And they were not very old. And the long and the short of it is they had an epiphany and just started working. And then they connected with your team. And this person has quit their job. They're making 5 times more than they did. They call their own shots. They have their own hours. They have more family time, which is what they wanted. More me time, more quality family time. And they're loving life. And then they're turning around and giving it back to others that are feeling kind of a bit desperate and down on their luck. So there are wonderful things that are out there. And again, this isn't money driven, it's mission driven. And so I've witnessed that. And it really made me stop and think. I know I've always been mission driven, but not everybody. A lot of people come and approach social media with, how big can I get? It's all about me. And I think that's where people go wrong. But the way you put it is very, very important, to be mission driven and thinking about how you can serve others. So thank you for sharing this message. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your story, Mr. Rory Vaden, and Brand Builders Group. And, buckle up, because you're going to be a busy boy. And I know wonderful things are happening for you all because you're doing good work and you're sincerely helping a lot of people. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Heather. It's an honor and a pleasure. Our clients are amazing. I mean, the people like you that we go, oh my gosh, like we're learning from you. We would it's incredible, the people who come, the impact that you've had and are having and will continue to have. So thank you for the privilege of the opportunity to speak into your life a little bit, and keep helping people, my friend. We love you.
Right back at you. Well, thank you, Rory. It's been lovely chatting, and we'll tune in maybe this time next year and see where you are. Thanks so much for tuning into the Mentors and Moguls podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, rate and review this interview and share it with a friend who could benefit from today's guest. You can find bonus video episodes at mentorsandmogulspodcast.com or check out our events page and our blog at heatherrstone.com. Until next time, make it a great day.